Okay. Cool. Okay, so today we are talking about carbs, good carb, bad carb, mm, and everything in between. So we're going to start right into it. Um, First off, why is this webinar important? Um, when we look at carbohydrates, we have to look at how it affects performance, how it contributes to weight gain or weight loss, how carbohydrates impact focus, and how they increase or decrease energy levels. Um, Probably the most important part to take away from this today is that if you limit too many carbohydrates, it can actually be harmful for your kidneys and brain. So very, very important towards the middle of this webinar is to kind of really sink your teeth into that and understand that. So is a low carb diet the way to go? Very, very popular for a lot of people is to say, hey, I'm going no carb, low carb. I'm eliminating all the white bread from my diet. I'm eliminating all grains from my diet. Um, and everyone comes back and says, "Hey, well, I lost a lot of weight, so it's good. It must be working." Um, and even you might have gone through it at some point in time to where you're like, "Wow, this is great. I lost 5 pounds in 5 days because I cut out all the carbohydrates in my diet." And really, um, that's not the best thing to do because what do carbs do in our bodies? Well, they're the main energy source for our brain, muscles, and organs. They hold water, which water is actually really, really important because we're made of 70 to 80% of water, especially for our muscles. And carbohydrates can enhance performance. So if we limit them too much and we don't do it properly, um, we can actually, well, hurt ourselves in the end. So what happens when you limit carbohydrates? Um, Weight loss does happen, and I say weight loss, not fat loss, because the weight is coming from muscle. Um, Moreover, the water that's in the muscle, because your body becomes dehydrated. You may notice you may not be as swelled or bloated, which are all signs of inflammation. However, we always have to take into account that we're losing too much water in those first week of limiting carbohydrates. Um, if you ever noticed, if you go on a low carb diet, no carb diet, you get headaches and you have extremely low energy and you want to kill everybody because you're irritable. Um, it's no, I mean, there's science behind that because what happens basically in the first thing I mentioned is it's the main fuel for our brain. So if we take that away from our brain, your body's not going to like you and people aren't going to like you. So if you go on a low carb diet, um, you always have to ask yourself, well, are you going to feel good? And if if losing weight is more important than feeling good, I think we should have a little bit longer conversation because that's not health. That's just worrying about your weight. So the dangers of low carbohydrate diets. Um, and this goes for really, really extreme measures. Um, if you really do like go on an Atkins type program, which I do not recommend because it literally is poison for your body. So what happens is your body enters the state of ketosis. And you might have heard this, you might have not. But in basic terms, is your body uses protein as energy for your body. The downside to that is ketones are poison for your brain and kidneys. So if you go on a prolonged low carb, no carb diet, you can actually really, really harm yourself, especially years down the road. A lot of people develop kidney stones. A lot of people develop chronic fatigue after they go off of it. So really, really be careful and be cautious of going on a low carb, no carb diet. Um, and always take this into consideration. Um, Also, if you now for athletes, this can be useful in a certain time of their training program. However, if you're just working and you work full time, you have kids, you have a family, don't go into ketosis and because you're gonna harm yourself, but you're also not gonna nobody gonna want to be around you because you're always going to be irritable and have low energy. You may have heard people say, "Oh, that's only for the first week and then it gets better." Just because you get used to something doesn't mean it's good for you. So just make sure that you go ahead and monitor how you feel through your nutrition rather than your results. So I keep this short and sweet for these webinars. So I give you the lowdown of the science behind everything and the reason behind everything. And now I'm going to go ahead and actually tell you what you got to do. So your options before going on a low carb, no carb diet is to, and if you're interested in weight loss, weight gain, or performance enhancement, you always have to get the basics down first. So every 3 to 4 hours, you're going to fuel. And you probably heard this before, no skipping meals. And if you do that, great. The next thing you want to do is try to add protein with every meal and every snack. Okay. If you could do those two things, you're on the road to success. Third thing, rise and dine. So eating within 30 minutes from waking. If you can do that, then the low carb, no carb diet might not even matter. And most important, hydrate. Um, and especially if you are in the beginning phases of going that way for no carb, low carb, hydration is key. If you don't, your brain will, well, you can become dehydrated and your brain can literally shut off if it becomes too dehydrated. And I've had instances where people would pass out and people would just typically not feel good. So very, very important to keep your brain hydrated. Um, Now, if you go through all those things and you're still not seeing the progress you want, then we can start to say, all right, carbohydrates, we can start to limit the starchy foods, but at the same time that you start to limit those things, double your vegetable intake. And that is, well, it's actually a lot of work. Um, it's well worth it, but if you go ahead and start to plan an extra salad a day or snacking on vegetables through the day, it could be done literally tomorrow if you went to the supermarket. So after you get those basics down and it's still not you're not seeing what you want, then it's time to move on to that. If you're like, all right, Ryan, I'm doing all of these things already and I'm still not seeing the results I want, well, that's a time to go ahead and actually sit down with me, a nutritionist, or somebody that has a little bit more education and planning background to go ahead and give you a good program to follow. So what I like to do, especially if you're planning around carbohydrates, is what's called nutrient timing. This was developed, well, the concept was pushed forward by a nutritionist, Dr. John Berardi. And basically, what you do is you only have starches around a workout session. So if you're like, man, I'm really, really craving a sandwich and I'm going on this low carb diet, um, after your workout, it's actually beneficial to go ahead and have a sandwich or to go ahead and have some sugar in your diet or to go ahead and have that starchy carbohydrate that you've been craving, maybe a bagel or something like that. Um, it's a cool way to satisfy that craving for that starch, that bread, um, and still see some great results because all of that fuel is usually going to get used by the muscle. But you do have to work out to take advantage of nutrient timing. So the other benefits that it does help regulate blood sugar issues. I've seen a lot of people come off diabetes medication and really start to manage their weight through nutrient timing. Also, it really truly does maximize your workout efforts. So if you have trouble gaining muscle or keeping muscle on, Nutrient timing is a fantastic way to go ahead and actually enhance your workouts and enhance your nutrition at the same time. So, if you have any questions at all, you can throw them in the chat. You can email me. You can jabber me. You can do whatever you need to get the most out of this and all the services I offer here. So, with that said, I wish you a good rest of the day, and I hope to see you guys soon.